Where should it be done? So let's talk about offshoring. So this is when it's done in another country. So, reasons companies offshore is usually because of they want to reduce costs, be more competitive, improve service, and so on and so forth. You can see the chart on here and see the percentage of the reasons they say they offshore. And geography is the essence of offshoring. And your input into this as a supply chain professional will make the decision better, because you are looking at it from the supply chain decision, where others in, let's say, a team that's evaluating this may not have that background. So there's two types of offshoring. There's offshore production. So you need to understand the local supply base. Now, this is production. You're manufacturing it overseas. You are having it produced. And then we have global sourcing. So we're identifying and assessing prospective supplier capabilities. And of course, each level requires a different level of support from the purchasing agent. Because if you're actually doing offshore production, well, you're just giving them the plans or the blueprints or the CAD drawings or whatever, and you're saying, make it. Your global sourcing, you're trying to find a company to say, make it. So we have several options when it comes to offshoring. We can look at the leading exporters. Countries that export a lot typically have a strong manufacturing base. Direct foreign investment. These are where people are putting their money. So countries such as India, China, and more. And then we have the Kearney's Global Offshoring Location Index. So they actually put some weights in a multi-criteria analysis and rank different charts, make it into a chart, and they rank different countries. So they use financial attractiveness, people skills, and business environment, and they put the percentages down so you can see how the decision is made. So here's an example of leading exporters. You can see China is number one, and then the United States, then Germany. So if you're looking for a country that has a strong manufacturing base, here's three right there: China, United States, Germany, and then Japan, and then the Netherlands. So now this chart's a couple years old, so these numbers might have changed, but this is a great place to start. You can look at the number one country and see what's there. You can use your global network design decisions and look at the country, the locality, and then maybe even the exact area you might want to put a plant if you're looking to outsource and put a plant up. But you can do the same thing. You can say, okay, we're going to go with China. Well, what area of China? Do you want to be in the middle of China? Do you want to be in western China? Or do you want to be in eastern China on the coast? Well, if you're going to export, you probably want to be near a port. So that would be on the east coast of China. So there's a lot of decisions when it comes to choosing a country to send your product to you. So we have the decision process, and we're going to go into that. But we need to pick a location. Where? Where in the world do we want to offshore to? And then how do we want it? What kind of operating structure do we want to use? So let's look at how we pick a country. So how do I pick the right location? Well, the country. We have access to resources, access to innovation. Maybe there's increased flexibility, and then access to the customers. So if we're selling our products mainly in Europe, we might want to choose a country like Germany. But if we're selling to Asia, we might pick China. So it depends on where our customers are, maybe. This is one aspect to consider. So regardless of where our customers are, it might be more costly to ship the resources to a plant that might be near our customers, or it might be may be more cost effective to produce in another country where the resources are and then ship the final product to the customers. You're going to have to look at different options here. And then we have a box here that says if you chase cost reduction through low-cost labor, you'll end up disappointed. So just because a country might have a lower labor cost doesn't mean you're going to get a higher quality product or a product that you'll be happy with. So cost of labor could be one factor, but it should not be your only factor. So once we pick a country, we need to pick a location. And then we have some strategic and cost considerations here. So we need to look at, let's say, our supplier terms. How do they want to be paid? Net payments, delivery frequency, minimum lot size or minimum order quantity, and do they offer a discount if you order more? So there's all these different things here. What about a supplier price? Labor, materials, overhead, local taxes, and compliance costs. This is, some cost of doing business here. What about the delivery? So the cost from your source to your destination. And it could include packaging of your products. And warehousing. Well, your product has to sit somewhere at some point in the process. So the warehousing and material handling costs to support additional inventory. So your stuff might take 2 weeks to build to get to your total shipment. Well, they may charge you a inventory holding cost because it's sitting in the warehouse. There's some of these fees. Some countries this is normal. Other countries this is not even talked about because they don't charge it. Inventory costs, supplier inventory, raw materials, in process and finished goods, in transit inventory, finished good inventory in the supply chain. So these are all different aspects of essentially accounting, because you can account for in transit inventory or in process or finished goods. You can do cost-based accounting and other types of accounting to figure all this out. Quality costs. Cost of inspections, rework, product recalls, and returns. So far, everything that we've talked about, we can quantify with numbers. But then we get to reputation. Our reputation, we can't evaluate that effectively we can't evaluate it effectively with numbers. So if a late delivery happens, what is that going to do to our reputation? Or if there's a quality problem. And then it's also very difficult to quantify support costs, such as management and administrative support. But then we can quantify the other costs, such as a foreign exchange rate, taxes, duties for importing. All this, we can figure this stuff out. We can see the exchange rate. We can see that it's $1 to 7 or 6.6 yuan or renminbi. And we can tell that. And taxes, well, we can figure that out because the taxes are usually public information in the United States. And the duties, well, we can figure that out too. Just have to find the appropriate websites. So we can actually put numbers to this so it's quantifiable. What about operating methods? So if we outsource, or offshore, I should say, how do we control what's going on here? So we have to pick the right operating structure. So we can offshore to a company that is owned by, let's say, our company, or a shelter operation, or we can just subcontract it out. So think about that. We might contract a company, but that company might subcontract a company themselves to get the work done. So think about a product you're having made. Let's say you reached out to the company that is actually making the product. But what about packaging? You want it to be in a nice box and a design and all that stuff. So that manufacturing company might outsource the making of the packaging material. So they're buying that from another company, a subcontractor, to build, to manufacture that box. So that would be a subcontractor as an example here. So you have to look at the operating structure. And our book will go over more of this than I can in a video. But we have some pitfalls here. We sometimes will think of our home country and compare everything to our home country. And that is a major pitfall. For example, when we think of a living wage, we want to make sure that we're supporting the people in another country with a living wage. Well, we can do, let's say the federal minimum wage in the United States and convert that into a foreign currency, and then we can look at to see, is that being paid to the local workers? Well, this is the home country thinking that's the pitfall. A living wage is different for each country. So what might be $15 an hour here in some parts of the country might be $3 a day in another country. And that might be a living wage in another country. So don't hold on to the home country thinking when you're looking to offshore. You have to understand the offshoring countries' way of thinking. And you can apply some of your home country thinking, you can't require it. For example, we have certain laws in the United States that other countries do not have. So how can we enforce the United States laws? Well, we can say we want this, this, and this, and then the potential offshoring company might say no. Or they might say, well, we can try. At what point do you say, okay, we're going to move forward or we're not going to do it? So the second pitfall here is poor communication. Well, think about it. If we're going to do business with China, for example, well, that could be a 12-hour time difference. Well, think if it's noon in the United States, it might be midnight in China. How many people in China do you think are answering the phone at midnight? Not many, unless they regularly do business with the United States. Then they might have some people that work during that time to answer the phones. But even if they answer the phones, you might have a language barrier. They might answer it in Mandarin, and you want to speak English. So how are you going to communicate? And if you do communicate, did they understand? Do you understand what they said? So you got to consider this. Communication is more than just sending in an email or a phone call. You got to make sure it's understood. And then failing to anticipate change. So this could be the local environment in the other country. This could be the political environment in the home country or the foreign country. It could be a whole slew of things. So like one country that I've been to, the negotiation starts after the contract is signed. Now that's kind of backwards for the United States because we like to negotiate, then put it into writing. Well, another country puts it in writing, then they negotiate. So you have to think of these changes. And because in the United States, a change after the contract is signed usually involves more money. But a change after a contract is signed in the country I'm speaking of might be just the normal course of business. But try to anticipate this change. And then under what circumstances would you look for these errors? Would you expect them or would you not? So that was figuring out where you should do this. Offshoring, the where part of the question. So we had outsourcing, which is who, and then offshoring is where. So next we're going to talk about a systematic outsourcing and offshoring process. So let's go ahead and move on to the next video.